The notice of claim process provides a statutory limit that states that you cannot file a lawsuit against a construction professional unless you've gone through the notice of claim process. That process has to begin 75 days prior to you submitting any claims to litigation. If you do not utilize the notice of claim process, once you submit those claims to litigation, the court will do what's called staying the action, to where they'll put a pause on everything until you go through the notice of claim process. And the notice of claim process is utilized as a potential way of resolving some of these issues so they don't end up in litigation. So when evaluating a construction defect case, there's a couple of things that we pay attention to at the very, very beginning. The first is the potential for the statute of repose. The statute of repose is a statute that basically states that if you have a potential construction defect on your property in Colorado, you've got 6 years to bring any claims associated with that potential defect. Now, there's also the statute of limitations, and this is probably something that you may be familiar with. But the statute of limitations on a construction defect in Colorado is 2 years. And the difference there is the statute of repose begins to run at the time that you either receive a certificate of occupancy or the completed construction is done. The statute of limitations, however, begins to run once you identify a potential defect. So, for example, if you notice that there's water coming in through one of your windows, that would be the beginning point of that statute of limitations analysis. So we would want to make sure that we enter the notice of claim process within 2 years of you identifying that defect. Now, that being said, how that interacts with the statute of repose is that 2-year statute of limitations has to occur within that repose period. Now, if you identify defects in the last year of the statute of repose, you do get additional time to bring those claims. So after we analyze the statute of repose and statute of limitations, then we know exactly how and when we need to proceed forward. And so then we enter the notice of claim process. And the notice of claim process is a required process prior to filing any litigation with respect to construction defects in Colorado. So you're required to put the builder or architect or whoever it may be who did the work on your property that could potentially be defective, you're required to provide them written notice of the defects, describing them with reasonable particularity. You don't necessarily have to say this is exactly what happened and this is why this is a defect or this is where it came from. You basically just have to be able to identify the fact that these are potential defects and they are the responsibility of the parties that you're sending the notice of claim to. That's right. So the notice of claim itself is going to be a letter sent by certified mail to the construction professionals. And again, whether that's the builder, developer, architect, or if there's soil issues, sometimes we capture in some of those other construction professionals in there as well. But ultimately, the builder or developer are going to be the most important parties that we're sending the notice of claim to, because they have an obligation to send those on to any subcontractors that they hired to perform any work underneath them.